The Asia-Pacific region is vast and diverse. Some of the largest countries of the world are part of it. So are some of the smallest island states. Some countries have reached high levels of economic development. Others are classified as least developed countries. There is one challenge that all countries face: urbanization. People often associate urbanization in Asia with megacities such as Tokyo, Shanghai, Dhaka, and Mumbai, but the majority of the region's urban population lives in cities and towns of less than 1 million inhabitants. The scale and pace of urbanization in Asia is unique. Currently, 1.7 billion Asians live in cities. In the next 15 years, another 700 million people will be added to that number. That is equal to building a city the size of Melbourne every month for the next 15 years. Urbanization is closely related to economic development. While Asia-Pacific has a long history of cities, rapid urbanization started in the 1980s and 90s with trade liberalization and globalization. As Asian economies grew, so did their cities. This process started in Northeast Asia, moved towards Southeast Asia, and is now moving into South Asia. With the collapse of the Soviet Union, economies of Central Asia declined in the 1990s. The rate of urbanization went down simultaneously. The economies of this region are recovering now, and urban growth has started to increase as well. Most cities in the Pacific are small, but in this region too there is a move towards towns and larger islands. Levels of urbanization in Iran and Turkey are similar to middle-income countries in Latin America. Asian economies didn't just grow, their structure changed too. The production of cheap goods used to be the most important sector, but now many cities are globally connected centers of trade and finance. In most cities, the informal and formal sector thrive side by side. This rapid economic development reduced poverty in many countries of the region. In China, the percentage of people living from less than $1.25 per day dropped from 60 to 16% in just 15 years. Pakistan did the same, from 65% to 23% in the same period. However, this progress has come at a cost. In their quest for rapid economic development, many countries gave less priority to sustainable development. So even though most Asian economies are more developed now than they were 30 years ago, 35% of the urban population still lives in slums in very insecure conditions, facing the threat of being evicted every day. Often their housing is unhygienic and cramped, their diet is inadequate, and they have no income security. To move towards more sustainable and inclusive urban development, the first step is to help the poor to share the benefits of growing urban economies. A second barrier towards balanced development is related to the environment. Some of the environmental problems cities are coping with are associated with poverty, such as lack of access to water and sanitation. Other environmental risks are caused by industrialization, like air and water pollution. The new urban middle class consumes much more and produces more waste. The carbon footprints of most Asian cities are still smaller than those of their American and European counterparts, but they are growing rapidly. The second step on the road towards inclusive and sustainable development is to internalize environmental costs. While cities of the region are struggling with their existing problems, they are now facing the emerging challenge of climate change. Asia-Pacific cities are particularly vulnerable to climate change. Most are built close to the coast, in or near floodplains. They are prone to flooding and storm damage. Cities in the Pacific are at risk of being inundated if the sea level continues to rise. Some countries, like Bangladesh, already see a large number of climate refugees and migrants moving from the delta into the cities. The third challenge for cities is to learn how to cope with the effects of climate change. Add to this the increasing vulnerability of cities to global crises. The food, fuel, and financial crisis that hit the world in the past few years have affected Asian cities deeply. They were the main cause for over 44 million people to slip back into poverty. This long list of challenges cities are coping with could easily turn one pessimistic. But we shouldn't forget that cities are also the sources of innovations, solutions, and opportunities. To make cities eco-efficient and green, inclusive and resilient, they will have to bridge 5 main development gaps. The first gap relates to legal and fiscal frameworks. Building a factory may benefit a city's employment opportunities in the short term, but can be a major cause of air and water pollution and health problems in the years to come. Urban development should therefore always balance economic, social, and environmental costs and benefits. Bangladesh is one of the countries that has already experimented with legal and fiscal regulations to encourage sustainable development. In Dhaka, plastic bags used to clog drains and the sewage system, causing severe floods and spread of diseases. In 2001, the city banned plastic bags altogether. 10 years later, not only is the sewage system less clogged, the traditional jute bag industry has also been revived, creating green jobs. We should use fiscal and regulatory frameworks to encourage the private sector to internalize environmental and social costs. This can be done in a way that it subsidizes the poor but penalizes wastage of resources. The second gap relates to financing. Many governments simply lack the money to develop in a sustainable and inclusive way. In the past decades, national governments have devolved a lot of their executive power to local authorities, but most have kept their say over financing. We need to review fiscal relationships between central and local governments to make sure local governments have money to tackle their problems. Cities could also look at alternative ways of financing urban development. One way would be to use part of the money Asian countries invest in bonds in developed countries for local urban development. Some municipalities have experimented with using carbon financing more effectively, or with channeling remittance funds to infrastructure projects. The third gap relates to urban design and planning. Many cities suffer from weak urban planning. Good urban planning takes into account physical, socio-economic, and environmental aspects and available investments. It can help cities to balance short-term costs with long-term benefits. It also helps to coordinate between sectors and departments and between different levels of government. This is especially important for mega-urban regions that often stretch out over various jurisdictional boundaries. The fourth gap relates to technology and innovations. Ever since their existence, cities have been hubs of knowledge and creativity. New solutions for urban problems will be found in cities. To encourage people and organizations to find these solutions, cities should foster a culture of innovation. Cities can do that by systematically looking for new innovations, adapt them to the local situation, and share the results with other cities. Exchanges between cities through networks can facilitate this process. ESCAP and other UN agencies have and will continue to document, analyze, and disseminate innovations. The fifth gap relates to human resources and institutional capacities. We need to develop knowledge and skills within the government and civil society. Our institutions should encourage learning and should be able to use past experiences to work more effectively. Local governments and research institutes have a major role to play. They can provide space for all urban stakeholders to discuss urban issues and design shared visions for the city. These forums can help bridge the gap between relatively short political cycles and the longer time needed to address development challenges. Bridging these development gaps would require that we adopt integrated, participatory, and adaptive approaches to governance. City governments need to integrate more across departments and coordinate with communities, civil society, and other authorities. Adopting more participatory approaches means that governance systems should be more inclusive and listen to the voices of the poor, women, and minorities. Local governments could become the center of a network of NGOs, universities, private sector parties, and other organizations working on urban issues, connecting one with the other, sharing experiences, and coordinating actions in a continuously adapting network of urban stakeholders. A city of opportunities is inclusive, sustainable, and resilient. It will not be easy to bridge all 5 development gaps and develop a new approach to governance. but the reward is no less than the future of Asia and the Pacific, and perhaps of the whole world.